Right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Biz Passion Voice. So I believe I'm hearing myself. So I'm going to mute some things. All right. So, hi, welcome. Today we have Vireo Karvonen, and she's just joining us today to share with us her personal experiences with Biz Passion and Voice. She is the owner of Dancing Pleasure Goddess, and Vireo is an expert in women's femininity and sacred sexuality. She has been empowering women to feel confident in their female bodies since 2008, and her clients call her the Shame Buster. Welcome, Vireo. Thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
Yay, yay. So I'm so glad that you decided to join us today on Biz Passion Voice. Normally what we're talking about is just about the difference between having a business of passion and a business of like product or like, standard corporate speak, so to speak. And so what I love to know is really what are some of the well, let's first start like where do you think your clients are? What do you think they're thinking when they show up to your business, when they know that they need something that looks like what you do?
Yeah, well, what I've had, it was kind of, it's like the business kind of came to me. I didn't go searching. I'm an introvert. I'd rather be alone in my little cabin where I actually am blessed to live. But women started, as I had my own awakening, women started to come to me and say, I want what you have. I was like, okay, what's that? So there was, I think, a desire to feel more alive and to feel more vibrant. And a lot of women were feeling like their passion was kind of dull. They'd lost their spark in life. They were feeling, some of them said they felt like they were a fake. So yeah, where they are, I don't know, the universe tends to bring them. They seem to be coming from all walks of life, but I think they're women who, maybe want to be more fulfilled in their lives, don't want to just kind of go through life,
Yeah.
go to work, come home, go
Same old,
to
same old.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all are looking for ways to have more of kind of the joy and excitement. Like we were talking a little bit about playing like as children earlier when we found our work, so to speak. And I think that's true. Like when you get back to that point where you can feel as vibrant or as excited as like you could do this forever. You remember those times when you're like, 8 years old and you just like would run and run and run and play and play and play and play, like you inexhaustible, right? Like if we could get just a tiny bit of that back, I think we would all be super happy, right? Um, I know that when I started my business, it wasn't something that I thought people would really respond to as much and maybe not the first people I talked about it who thought it was, brilliant, but which I'm very grateful for. But when I had to start sharing it, like in marketing speak and like to the people that might not, I would have never talked about it with on purpose, but of course they're going to see it like career colleagues and whatnot. Um, what came up for you um, when when you started sharing your message to a broader audience?
Yeah, that's really obvious. So what came up for me was shame, because I'm teaching in a really taboo subject. People, and my kind of three areas of expertise were around mental health, because I had struggled myself with that. Suicide, I dealt with that with others and lost my brother to suicide, and sexuality, all the taboo subjects. So shame came up. And then also kind of like, who are you? Who are you to think that you can live? It's, Marianne Williamson's the poem, right? That
Ah,
has been used in so many different ways. Uh, where she's like, who are you not to be? Who are you not to shine your light? But the voice in my head and from some people was like, who do you think you are to live a happy life when the rest of us are in drudgery? Who do you think you are to live an orgasmic, ecstatic, blissful life? So that was definitely, almost shut me down at the beginning, because I was really passionate about teaching all these things I'd learned at 55 years old. I'm 59 today, that I didn't know about as a woman. And so I came back from studying sacred sexuality and learning some key things. And I was like super excited. And then it was like, boom, that door of shame just went, whoa, okay.
Wow. Yeah.
That was interesting.
I think a lot of people can relate, because I think if you have found your joy triggers, so to speak, and if you found that the happy place you can go to, then even things like 2020 are only part of what's happening, right? And I think a lot of us had that experience in 2020 where we're like, well, I still find my joy, like I still have my joy treasure box over here. So I understand things are bad, but I'm happy, I'm good, like, and and I think it brings up that shame, like, ooh, like people are, not everybody's happy. Maybe I shouldn't be as happy. And that feeling, of feeling like you're overstepping bounds. Like, what would you say to somebody who feels like, oh, I shouldn't be happy in a time when people are struggling and the capital's being run over and all of that?
Yeah, I think what I say to people now is a couple of things. One is our biggest gift that we can give the world, and especially if we're moms, and I'm a mom, I have two adult sons. The biggest gift we can actually give is to shine our light really bright so that other people can also find their way to their own passion, their own happiness, their own joy triggers that you called them. Because the more turned on people we have in the world that are being lit up by what they do and what I would call our divine God-given gifts, right? I know every single person, no exceptions, has been given gifts that we're to shine here that nobody else can do. Like nobody else can do what you do, Monifa. It's you have gifts that you were given to give here and to live, and it's your purpose, not anybody else's, and mine, and vice versa. So yeah, just really letting people know that it's your birthright. Like you've been given gifts and let's not waste them. That would be, I think, one of the things that I would speak to. And then the other one I would say is I actually celebrate now, and a very dear friend of mine really shared this with me, Alita. She actually is an amazing singer too. She, like you, I'm thinking of you now myself right now in that area. But she said sometime when somebody called her selfish, like, for shining her light bright and taking care of herself, doing her passion things, somebody said, you're selfish. And she said, thank you. And now I say thank you to people. And like, if they're like, oh, you're too bright, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too happy, like tone it down. I just say thank you. And they're like, well, wait a minute, that wasn't a compliment. I go, that's okay. I'm going to take it as one, because it tells me that I'm living full on. I'm not dimming my light. I'm living on purpose. I'm awakened. And I want to tell people that, yeah, it might look really crazy out there, might feel like a pipe dream, like I'm blowing smoke on the back end, that might not be possible for them. But I want to tell them, no, it is actually possible for you, because I lifted myself out of the dirt and the grit 4 years ago when, yeah, I was not living in passion. I had a complete mental, emotional, nervous breakdown. So I would let people know, yes, you can have this too.
Yeah, that it's yeah. And I think, yeah, when you've had that experience, because we see so much of the not, right? We see so much of, well, don't I look happy? Well, don't I have happy things? And don't I think it's so important for people to see what it looks like to just truly be happy, and not really need it to be like this whole performance. you know, that it's just part of what you do and who you're being day to day. And of course, people want more of that, because most of us are just trying to be, right? Trying to be happy, not like really, or hopefully sometimes we glimpse it, right? But you don't get the full experience. And so when somebody can share that with you, I think that's super powerful, you know? And there's so many ways to explore yourself. One thing that I don't usually ask, but I kind of like your story, so I want to say, like, what took you from what experience took you from just feeling that breakdown and like feeling like there's nothing up for you, right? And then bringing you into this place where you finding your joy and you're overflowing with what you have to offer, which means that you had something up. Yeah, something's up with you, right? So like tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's two moments that kind of come to mind. One was I was at a silent retreat, which is kind of funny because I talk a lot. I was at a silent retreat for, I think it was, I don't know, a few days at least. And during the break, the it was Reverend James Golden. Uh, he's kind of connected with Center for Spiritual Living, Agape, all those kind of people in that jive. And I was there, and during the break, he would play what I would call kind of like sacred music, kirtan. And there, I'm in a church space, and I started like dancing around the space because nobody could tell me anything. I felt for some reason this extreme liberation and freedom to just dance and dance, like really dance, like Source was dancing me. And at our graduation, so I think it was more than a few days, at the graduation, Reverend James Golden and his wife Leslie Golden, he had this little Kokapelli pin. I didn't really know who Kokapelli was other than kind of hearing a little bit on his ceremonial jacket. And he went to give me Kokapelli, and he said, Kokapelli wants to go to you. And he wants to go to you on one condition, that you promise every time you have this urge to dance, that you honor it. And up until then, I had been really, my first husband, who I was with at the time, was in a lot of depression, and it was really actually hard to get up and be happy. And I realized I can't do gray. I'm either all in or not in. So I decided to be all in and own that. And so I started in that moment, and that was probably around 2005 or something like that. I started really owning that no matter where I am, if I hear music or no music, I could be in a grocery store, in a church, on the beach, wherever I am. When I feel that urge move through me to move my body and dance, whether there's music or no music, I'm going to dance. And I made that decision in that moment. And it brought me many gifts, but it brought me this presence of being alive and not caring so much about what other people think, and dancing anyway. And I would still have the fear that would come up, but I would go and dance anyway. And that actually led me eventually. Women would come up to me. I would be often the only woman dancing at church when people were singing, and for like a long time, for like a couple of years. And I had women that come up to me and said at another event, like, when you teach dance, we'd like to, come and, or do you teach dance? And I'm like, yeah, go away. You've been meditating too long or something. And they're like, no, when you teach dance, we'll drive. And they were living like a few hours from where I lived. And they said, we'll dance to where you live. And I'm like, okay, now you really have been meditating too long, go away. But it's like the angels planted this little seed. And that's when then I started looking at Kundalini dance, which then helped me really get out of the wallpaper in the wall and into my body. But it was that one seed that Reverend James Golden, that he planted, is like he saw in me the gift of this aliveness when music came on. I don't know if I answered your question, but that was the one
Yeah.
that came to my mind, the one moment. And then I had another one, but maybe that one's good for now.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I think that's, your own experience created that moment, right? Where people can only validate you when they see you. And if you don't show them who you are, then there's nothing for them to come seek, right? Um, I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to emphasize that point, because that's something that I like to make sure that people are reminding themselves of. We're always worried about being criticized for our differences. And then often we're the same people that will complain when people don't understand us, or that people aren't getting us, right? And the truth is, if that you haven't shown them who you are, then they don't know who they're supposed to get, you know? And so, yeah, I love that story for that. And the one question I always have to ask, because my whole life revolves around voice, the ways yours revolves around movement and embodiment. Um, how does voice help you do what you do?
Well, I wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for my voice. That's first of all, for sure. Um, and the moments that actually is coming to my mind was, and part of it was, stepping out of the closet bigger, stepping into bigger, of owning that, yeah, I teach sacred sexuality, which when we have our sexuality awaken, of course we have more voice, right? The the vocal cords in our throat for women is actually like a mirror image of our vulva. There's like a connection there, right? So when we have activated our sexuality and our femininity, and we have that life force energy flowing, then we can speak more powerfully. We can own our voice. We can speak our truth. We can show up as ourselves. And that happened for me March 16th, 2018, I believe it was. I was at an event with my colleagues, actually at a belief repatterning event. I was leading, and I was leading a workshop, you want to call it, on transforming shame around sexuality. And I did not know half of the people in the audience. So this was very, nobody had ever talked about sexuality in this group before. And so I stood there and I actually put a crown on. I had bought myself a crown maybe a few months before that had opal and peacock on it, like a real crown. I put it on.
Yay.
And I stood up in front of them and I said that I was going to teach this, but there was another piece that was happening at the time. My son, my older son, who's now married and 22 years old, about to be a father soon with his wife and him. My son was getting married that afternoon. So I'm going to be super vulnerable here. My son was getting married, and I had actually not received an invitation to my son's wedding because he was dealing with a lot of stuff with the divorce, which had been 5 years earlier, I think, at that time. And I was really proud of myself. I stood up and I said to all the people in the audience, and half of them, like I said, I did not know. I said, with my voice, I said, my son is getting married this afternoon. I don't yet have an invitation to his wedding. And I would love if you all pray and hold space for a miracle that I get an invitation to my son's wedding. And that was super vulnerable for me to use my voice and to say it and to offer my vulnerability. And maybe some people might have had judgment. I was okay with that. And as soon as my presentation were done and a whole bunch of women were having tears and transforming shame around sexuality, and they were able to reclaim their birthright, that sexuality is healthy and it's sacred and it's necessary. It's not a vanity. It's not dessert. It's like we need it in our lives for our health and actually for our voice too, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it was like an hour workshop or something. At the end of it, I got a telephone call and an invitation to my son's wedding. And some beautiful healing happened there. So again, it's kind of like what you said earlier. If we don't ask for what we want, if we don't put it out to the universe and use our voice, I believe we can have a lot of desires and dreams and goals and intentions. But if they only stay here and we don't actually voice them, they're probably not going to manifest. We actually need to voice them. So it's super vulnerable sometimes to ask for what we want. And that was like the biggest ask in the universe I could have ever done.
That's huge.
And,
That's huge.
and a blessing came from it, right? And I was actually not attached to
Yes.
the result. That was the beautiful part, is if I didn't get an invitation, I was also knowing that I was really respecting him, because it felt like my son, my knowing was that he was going from being, mummy's boy, because he was very close to me growing up, that he was actually stepping into being a man. And he was a bit, he was pissed off at his mother, right, for some of my
Mm-hmm.
choices. And I was just honoring that if that was his choice, then I was, part of me wanted to go and bust the wedding and show up and have a big fight. But I wasn't, I was going to like respect his decision. And in the end, I was not attached to the result, and I still voiced to the the universe and all who were there that this was my
What your
desire. So
desire
I'd be
is.
super. I realized like this is being airing publicly, and I'm okay. I'm at peace. And maybe if there's some other mother that's struggling too with, sometimes our relationships with our family are such that they are, and so yeah, the voice, when we can speak up and when we can be courageous in those vulnerable moments, it's pretty super powerful. So I had no idea that's what I was going to say. There we go.
It's super powerful. It's super powerful. And oh my gosh, like Vireo just gave y'all like several secrets on what true manifestation requires. And one of the two essential elements is sacral and throat chakra flow, right? Like those things have to be connected if you want to manifest something. That's just the way it is, right? And then, and then the not attachment, it's always easy to say, but until we have the experience of feeling what that means, then we can't do it on purpose. So I think, again, like you can get a lot of value from just having that experience through some actual practice. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to what. Tell them, because I'm excited. You have an event coming up tomorrow, and it starts tomorrow. So everybody should jump in right away. The link is available on the page. And I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video, right, directly afterward. Tell them, what's your event for tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm super excited. So it's 5 secrets to reigniting your femininity and your sensuality. I can't always say the sex word on Facebook, but sexuality. And it's really about you as a woman, like your solo sex. This is not about you and a partner right now. Of course, it'll amplify it with a partner, but it's really all about you. And I really know with everything that's going on the planet, everything that's going on in North America, I'm in Canada, some of you are in the US, that it's like even more critical than ever before that we rise up as women. And the only way we're going to rise up is when we are claiming our voice, which is the work that Monifa is doing. And when we are in our bodies, when we're in our sacral chakra, when we step into our bodies, and when we can rise up as women and not emasculate men and the masculine, but to meet the masculine, that's where I really believe world peace is going to come from.
Yes.
When we're happier, we're all leading our passionate lives and bringing our gifts that we have, and we're seeing the divine in each other. So yeah, so 5 days, starts tomorrow, 12 o'clock Mountain Standard, 11 o'clock Pacific Standard, Eastern 2 o'clock. And it's a gift to yourself, and it's an amazing sisterhood. And some of you right now, if you're where I was 4 years ago and you are struggling, and maybe you're like depressed and panicked and anxious and fearful, and maybe things are not going well for you. And this might seem like, yeah, it's a pipe dream to actually be pleasurable. And I actually say to people, what if 2021 could be your most pleasurable, ecstatic year? What if you could find your voice?
Yeah.
Then, I really do believe it's possible. And I know that the tools that I'm going to share with you in the practices and the amazing work that, Monifa does as well are actually tools that are going to help you, that you could have your most pleasurable, ecstatic year in 2021. So I'm knowing that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that for you as well. And so I will stand with you on that. Like, and there's no better time. Like you might as well get to it now because it's necessary in a time when things are changing so quickly. You need to know where center is, and that lies with you. And so these are the practices that will get you there. So I hope to see everybody at the event tomorrow. I will be there because I know it's going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Vireo, for doing this Biz Passion Voice interview. And I hope that we will see each other later this year, that we're going to have our fun coming up. We have so much to do and so much, beautiful work to share the message on. And so I hope to be in partnership with you as we share this important message. Yeah.
Blessings. Thank you, everyone.